Alright, welcome to episode 10 of TeflonStoic's Adventures in Hardcore WoW with Marcus Aurelius Meditations.
Reflect that all these individuals have long since perished. What is terrible for them now? And what indeed for those whose names are no longer remembered?
I gotta cook this up, guys.
Only one thing
You
truly
listen to
matters
Marcus.
here. To always live in truth and justice, while remaining compassionate toward liars and the unjust. 48. When you wish to find joy, consider the virtues of those around you. The energy of one, for instance, the modesty of another, the generosity of yet another, and so on. For nothing brings greater joy than the manifestations of virtue visible in the character of those who share our lives, and as much as possible, let these qualities come into view. Therefore, keep them close at hand. 49. Are you troubled because you weigh a certain number of pounds and not 300? Likewise, do not be troubled because you must live for a certain number of years and no more. For just as you are content with the amount of substance assigned to you, so too should you be content with the time allotted to you. 50. Try to persuade them, but act against their wishes if justice demands it. If, however, someone uses force to block your path, maintain a mindset of equal satisfaction, without yielding to frustration, and use that obstacle as an opportunity to practice another virtue. Remember that your intention carried a reservation. You were not aiming for the impossible. What then were you aiming for? To follow an impulse of that particular kind. By achieving this, you fulfill the purpose for which we were created. 51. Those who seek fame place their good in the actions of others. Those who seek pleasure place it in their own passivity. But those who possess wisdom place it in their own action. 52. On this point, it is possible to form no opinion at all and thus avoid disturbing your soul. For things themselves do not inherently possess the power to produce our judgments. 53. Train yourself to listen carefully to what others say, and as much as possible, step into the mind of the person who is speaking. 54. What is not useful to the swarm is not useful to the bee either. 55. If sailors criticize the helmsman, or patients criticize the doctor, what else would they focus on except how one acts for the safety of the crew, or the health of the patients? 56. How
My
many
guild
people
sent
with
me
whom I
some
entered
wonderful
this world
things.
have already departed? 57. To those with jaundice, honey tastes bitter. To those with rabies, water is terrifying. And to children, a ball is delightful. Why then do I grow angry? Do you think that false judgment has any less effect than bile does on the jaundiced, or the virus does on the rabid? 58. No one can prevent you from living in accordance with the reason of your own nature. Nothing will happen to you that is contrary to the reason of the common nature. 59. What kind of people are those whom men seek to please, and for what advantages, and through what actions? And how soon eternity will cover all things, and how many it has already covered? 1. The substance of the universe.
Some disenchanting.
Stoicism. In Stoic physics, passive matter, Ile, is entirely shaped by divine reason, logos, which acts only for good. Since the universe follows this rational principle, nothing that occurs within it is truly evil. 2. To make good use of the present, philosophy. A proverbial expression emphasizing presence of mind and focus on the moment. Core themes in Stoic and broader ancient ethics. 3. Transform and vanish into vapor. Philosophy. Marcus contrasts the Stoic and Epicurean views of the universe. For Stoics, all substance undergoes periodic conflagration, ekpyrosis. For Epicureans, all things eventually disperse into atoms, without purpose or renewal. 4. According to universal nature, Stoicism. The Stoics held that the universe is a single, complete, and rational whole, governed entirely by logos. There is no nature outside it or above it. Nothing exists independently of the universal order.
My bags are better, so
5.
I'm going to send those
Chaos,
back to battle.
confusion,
I should have taken
and
them out.
dissolution. Philosophy. Marcus contrasts the Stoic cosmos, unified, ordered, and governed by providence, with the Epicurean view of a universe formed by the random motion and recombination of atoms, lacking purpose or design. 6. Return to Earth, literature. Quotation from Homer's Iliad, 7:99, part of the duel between Hector and Ajax. The line contributes to the epic's themes of honor, fate, and the code of heroic conduct that shaped Greek views on glory and mortality, expressing the return of the body to nature after death, common motif in ancient thought on mortality. 7.
I could use that.
Falernian wine was a renowned vintage from the Campania region in southern Italy.
Yeah, I need
highly prized in
this.
antiquity, it was associated with luxury and often mentioned in Roman literature as a symbol of refined taste and indulgence. 8. Crates Xenocrates. Biography.
For the strength.
Crates is likely the Cynic philosopher, circa 365 to 285 BCE, known for his austere lifestyle and public satire. Xenocrates, on the other hand, was a disciple of Plato and a prominent figure in the early academy. The exact context of their mention remains uncertain, though both were associated with schools of thought that emphasized self-discipline and philosophical integrity. 9. Most common kinds of things. Stoicism. According to Stoic physics, inanimate things are held together by hexis, a mode of pneuma, the divine life force. As beings grow in complexity, pneuma expresses itself as physis in plants, psyche in animals, and logica, psyche, in rational beings, with increasing degrees of internal tension, tonos. 10. Evaporation of blood and the drawing of breath. Stoicism. The Stoics held that the soul was a form of pneuma, sustained by vapor from the blood and by the air we breathe. This made life inherently fragile, a momentary balance of elemental forces.
Oh,
11.
yeah, now we're cooking with gas,
Transpire like plants. Culture. In antiquity, it was believed that plants and animals, including humans, absorbed part of the air through pores in the skin, a process called transpiration. It was thought to sustain life along with breathing. 12. Even 3 hours lived this way, Stoicism. For the Stoics, the value of life lies in living virtuously, not in its duration. A short life aligned with nature and reason is complete in itself. What matters is the quality of one's moral purpose, not how long it lasts. 13.
Tome of Divinity. I need to
Alexander
get that
the Great and his mule driver. Philosophy. Marcus contrasts the Stoic and Epicurean views of death, reabsorption into the rational cosmos or dissolution into atoms. But his point is that death equalizes all, regardless of status or metaphysics. 14. Antoninus. Biography. Antoninus was part of Marcus's imperial name, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, adopted in honor of his predecessor and adoptive father, Emperor Antoninus Pius. 15. What seems appropriate? Stoicism. For the Stoics and Socrates, everyone pursues what they believe to be good. Moral error stems not from malice, but from mistaken judgment. Weakness of will is, in truth, a false belief about what benefits us.
Okay, we're going to go protect 16. The herd, and
Antoninus,
I'll probably do it myself.
Biography.
And we're going to kill these
was
Troggs.
Roman emperor from 138 to 161
Turn that in.
And the adoptive
I'll
father
fly back
of Marcus
to the Iron
Aurelius.
Forge.
He is repeatedly praised in the Meditations for his just and peaceful reign. He embodied the Stoic ideal of measured rule and personal virtue, serving as both political and moral example to his successor. 17. Pleasures. Stoicism. Even the most vicious people are capable of intense pleasure, which shows that pleasure is not a true good. For the Stoics, pleasures and possessions are adiaphora, morally indifferent and without value in themselves.
I agree.
18. Mount Athos, geography. A mountain in northeastern Greece, located on the Chalcidice Peninsula, peak of the Act promontory. In antiquity, it was known for its striking presence and later became a center of spiritual retreat, though in Marcus's time, it was primarily noted for its geography and isolation, a symbol of natural immensity, and the insignificance of human monuments in the face of time. 19. Unity of substance. Stoicism. In Stoic physics, all things are unified by pneuma, the divine, animating breath. Its internal tension, tonos, determines the qualities of each being. The universe is a single, continuous substance held together by this tension and by the mutual sympathy, sympathia, of all its parts. 20. The force that created them remains present. Stoicism. Unlike tools which depend on an external maker, natural beings possess within themselves the principle that created them. This internal force, pneuma, drives each thing toward its proper function, guided by reason and nature. 21. Good or bad, Stoicism. Only what is within our power, prohairesis, is truly good or bad. External events are adiaphora, morally indifferent, and gain value only through how we choose to respond to them. 22. Even those, Cosmos, Literature, Fragment 75, Diels Krantz, from Heraclitus, emphasizes the unity and order of the cosmos, logos, a foundational idea in Stoic cosmology. 23. Chrysippus, Stoicism. Chrysippus of Soli, circa 280 to 207 BCE, was one of the foremost figures of Stoicism, credited with systematizing and expanding the doctrines of the early Stoic school, known for his logical rigor and defense of paradoxes. The quotation comes from Plutarch's On Common Notions, 14-1065d, where he engages critically with Stoic ideas, often referencing Chrysippus's arguments. 24. Frugifera, mythology. An epithet of Demeter, the Greek goddess of agriculture and fertility, known in Roman religion as Ceres. She embodied the nourishing power of nature and the cycle of life and death, making her a central figure in ancient agrarian rites and seasonal mythology. 25. Deliberated about the whole universe. Philosophy. Marcus contrasts the Epicurean view, where the gods are indifferent, with the Stoic belief in pronoia, a providence that governs the universe and may extend even to individuals. 26. Philistion, Phoebus, Origanian, literature. Philistion was likely a mime writer active during the Augustan age. Though little is known about his life or works, his name is associated with the popular theatrical tradition of mimes. Nothing is known of Phoebus and Origanian. These figures remain obscure, with no reliable historical or literary sources to clarify their identities. They are cited as obscure performers or poets, illustrating the fading of fame. 27.
Okay.
Pythagoras. Biography.
Let's find this guy.
A philosopher and mathematician born on the island of Samos in 531 BCE. He later emigrated to Croton in southern Italy, where he founded a school that blended scientific inquiry with ethical and religious teachings. His influence extended far beyond mathematics, shaping early philosophical thought on the nature of the soul, harmony, and the cosmos. 28. Eudoxus, Hipparchus, Archimedes. Biography. Eudoxus of Cnidus and Hipparchus of Nicaea were renowned mathematicians, astronomers, and geographers of the ancient world, contributing significantly to the understanding of celestial movements and mathematical theory. Archimedes of Syracuse was also a brilliant mathematician and astronomer, as well as an inventor whose mechanical ingenuity and theoretical insights left a lasting mark on both science and engineering. Symbolize the brilliance and impermanence of human knowledge. 29. Menippus, biography. Menippus of Gadara, a disciple of the Cynic philosopher Metrocles, is credited as the originator of the Menippean satire, a literary form that blended prose and verse, seriousness and irony, to critique human folly and philosophical pretension. His sharp wit and cynic spirit influenced later Roman satirists such as Varro and Seneca. 30. Another virtue, Stoicism. Marcus refers here to one of the four cardinal Stoic virtues. In this case, the obstacle becomes a chance to practice phronesis, practical wisdom, the ability to act rightly, with discernment, in any circumstance. This is guided by hupaxeresis, the Stoic principle of inner reservation. We commit to the action while accepting that the outcome is beyond our control. 31. Form no opinion at all. Stoicism. Emotions arise from judgments, not from things themselves. For the Stoics, impressions, fantasiae, do not compel us. We choose to give assent, synkatathesis, or not. Withholding judgment protects the soul's tranquility. 32. Jaundice, culture. In ancient medicine, jaundice was thought to result from an excess of bitter bile, which altered perception and made even sweet things, like honey, taste bitter. Book 7. Control of Emotions. Giovanni Battista Piranesi, Veduta del Ponte Salario. The Salarian Bridge, weathered yet enduring, symbolizes Marcus's Stoic patience, a quiet strength that holds firm across the shifting currents of time. 1. What is evil? It is what you have seen countless times before. And for every event, keep this thought close at hand. It is what I have seen countless times before. In short, you will find the same eternal comings and goings, filling the histories of ancient times, the Middle Ages, recent eras, cities, and households. Nothing new. All is familiar, and it endures but briefly. 2. How else can principles die except through the fading of the impressions that correspond to them, which it is your duty to continually renew? On this point, I am capable of holding the right opinion, and if I am capable, why should I be troubled? What lies outside my mind is absolutely nothing to my mind. Learn this, and you will be an upright person. You can come alive again, see things as you once saw them. That is what it means to revive. 3. The futility of a triumphal procession. Plays on the stage, herds of cattle and flocks of sheep, spear-throwing contests, a bone tossed to puppies, a crumb of bread in a fish pond, ants struggling under their burdens, frightened mice scurrying about, puppets jerked by strings. Toward all these things, one must maintain a kindly disposition, without a trace of arrogance, while recognizing that each person is worth only as much as the things to which they have devoted themselves. 4. We must pay close attention, word by word, to what is said, and impulse by impulse to what happens, and in the latter case, immediately see what purpose the impulse serves. In the former, carefully observe the meaning behind the words. 5. Does my mind reach this point or not? If it does, I will use it as a tool given to me by universal nature for this task. If it does not, I will either hand the task over to someone better suited to carry it out, or if the task cannot be entrusted to others, I will do what I can, enlisting the help of whoever is capable, working alongside my guiding principle to accomplish what is now opportune and beneficial for the community. Whatever I do, whether through my own efforts or with the help of others, I must direct all my actions toward this single goal, what is useful and appropriate for the community. 6. How many, once highly celebrated, are now consigned to oblivion, and how many who celebrated them have long since vanished? 7. Do not be ashamed to accept help. Your task is simply to do your duty, like a soldier fighting on the walls. And what then? If you were lame and unable to climb the ramparts alone, but could do so with the help of another, would you hesitate? 8. Do not let the future disturb you. If you must reach it, you will do so with the same reason that you apply to the present. 9. All things are interconnected, and their bond is sacred. One can say that nothing is alien to anything else, for all things are coordinated and contribute to the order of the same cosmos. There is but one cosmos made up of all things, one God who permeates everything, one substance, one law, a common reason shared by all intelligent beings, and one truth, because there is also but one perfection, as all beings share the same origin and participate in the same reason. And every material thing vanishes into the substance of the universe in an instant. Every cause is absorbed into the universal reason in an instant, and the memory of everything sinks into eternity in an instant. 11. For a rational being, an action that is in accordance with nature is also in accordance with reason. 12. Either it is right, or it can be set right. 13. The same relationship that exists between the limbs of a single body connects in separate beings their rational capacities, which are designed to work together toward a single purpose. This idea will become clearer if you repeatedly remind yourself, I am a limb, Melos, of the system formed by all rational beings. But if you say, with an added R, that you are merely a part, Meros, it means you do not yet love humanity from the depths of your heart. That doing good does not yet bring you joy with full awareness of your actions, and that you still act out of mere duty, not yet convinced that doing good benefits even yourself. 14. Let external things strike what they can harm, if they wish. Those things, if they choose, may complain of their own suffering. But I, unless I judge what has happened to be an evil, have not yet been harmed. And it is within my power not to judge it as an evil. 15. Whatever anyone else does or says, I must remain a person of virtue, just as if gold or an emerald or purple dye were to say repeatedly, whatever anyone else does or says, I must remain an emerald and keep my color. 16. The guiding principle does not disturb itself. By this, I mean it does not frighten itself, cause itself pain, or drive itself to desire. If someone else is able to frighten it or cause it pain, let them do so. But the guiding principle, through its power to form opinions, will not yield to such disturbances. Let the body for its part take care not to suffer, if it can, and if it does suffer, let it speak up. But the soul, insofar as it has the ability to form an opinion about what causes fear, what causes pain, and indeed the entire situation, runs no risk of suffering, for it does not collapse into such judgments. The guiding principle, as far as depends on itself, has no needs unless it creates a need for itself. And similarly, it is free from disturbances and obstacles, unless it disturbs or obstructs itself. 17. Happiness is a good demon, or good. So what are you doing here, impression? Leave in the name of the gods, just as you came. I have no need of you. You've arrived out of your old habit, but I'm not angry with you. Just go. 18. Is there anyone who fears change? And yet, what can happen without transformation? What is more precious or familiar to the nature of the universe? Can you even take a warm bath if the wood does not transform into heat? Can you eat if the food does not transform? And what useful thing can be achieved without change? Do you not see, then, that your own transformation is just the same and equally necessary to the nature of the universe? 19. All bodies pass through the universal substance like through a rushing stream, sharing in the nature of the universe and collaborating with it, just as our limbs work together with one another. How many Chrysippuses, how many Socrateses, how many Epictetuses has eternity already swallowed? Let this same reflection come to mind regarding any person or thing. 20. I concern myself with only one thing, that I do not act contrary to what human nature requires, nor behave in ways it does not demand, nor undertake actions it does not approve of at this moment. 21. For you, the forgetting of everything is near. For everyone, the forgetting of you is near. 22. It is a defining trait of humanity to love even those who err. And this becomes possible if you remind yourself that they are your kin, that they err out of ignorance and not by choice, and that soon both you and they will be dead. Above all, remember that they have not harmed you, for they have not made your guiding principle worse than it was before. 23. The universal nature, from the universal substance, as if from wax, now molds a horse, then melts it down and uses its material to shape a tree, then a human, then something else. And each of these beings exists for only the briefest moment. But for a box, there is nothing terrible about being destroyed, just as there was nothing terrible about being created. 24. A face darkened by anger is entirely contrary to nature. When it flares up repeatedly, it eventually fades away, so that it can no longer be ignited in any way. Try to grasp this principle clearly, that anger is contrary to reason. For if even the awareness of this error fades, what reason for living will remain? 25. The nature that governs the universe will soon transform all the things you see, and from their substance it will create new things, and from the substance of those, still others, so that the cosmos remains forever young. 26. When someone wrongs you, immediately consider what belief about good or evil led them to make the mistake. If you understand this, you will feel compassion for them and no longer be surprised or angry. For if you still share their belief about good or hold a similar one, you must forgive them. And if your belief about good and evil is no longer of this kind, it will be easier for you to be lenient with those who err. 27. Do not think of absent things as if they were present, but among present things, value those that are most beneficial, and reflect on how much you would seek them if they were not already at hand. At the same time, be careful not to grow so attached to them through satisfaction that you become upset if one day they are no longer there. 28. Turn inward. The rational principle that governs you is by nature self-sufficient, and when it acts with justice, it finds peace precisely in doing so. 29. Dismiss the impression. Stop the strings that move the puppet. Narrow your focus to the present moment. Observe what is happening to you or to others. Break down the object into its causal and material components. Reflect on your final hour. Leave that man's error where it began. 30. Apply your mind to what is said. Penetrate with thought into events and their causes. 31. Illuminate yourself with simplicity, modesty, and indifference to what lies between virtue and vice. Love humanity. Follow the divine. It declares, all things exist by convention. Only the elements truly exist. It is enough to remember that all is by convention. After that, there is very little left to hold in mind. 32. On death. Either dispersion, if reality is made of atoms, or else, if it is a unified whole, extinction or transformation. 33. On pain. What is unbearable destroys us. What endures is bearable. The mind retreating into itself preserves its peace, and the guiding principle remains unharmed. As for the parts injured by pain, let them declare their suffering, if they are able. 34. On fame. Observe their minds. What is their nature? What do they avoid? What do they pursue? And consider this. Just as layers of sand, settling one upon another, bury what came before, so too in life, past events are quickly buried by those that follow. 35. To someone with a noble mind and the ability to grasp in thought the totality of time and being, do you truly believe that human life can seem like something very important? Impossible, he replied. And therefore, would such a person consider death to be something terrible? Not at all. 36. It is the mark of a king to act rightly and be criticized. 37. It is shameful that the face so readily submits to being shaped and composed as the mind commands, yet the mind itself does not know how to shape and compose itself. 38. One should not be angry with things, for they are utterly indifferent. 39. Grant both to the immortal gods and to us reasons for joy. 40. To reap life like a ripe ear of grain, and that one may live, while another does not. 41. And if the gods have overlooked me and my 2 sons, even this has its reason. 42. Goodness and justice are with me. 43. Do not join in lamentations, and do not be startled. 44. To this I might justly reply, you are mistaken, my friend, if you think that a person of even the slightest worth should calculate the risk of life or death, rather than consider only whether, in acting, they act justly or unjustly, and as a virtuous person or a wicked one. 45. For the truth, Athenians, is this. Wherever a man takes his position, whether he has judged it the best or has been assigned it by his commander, there, in my view, he must remain and face danger, valuing neither death nor anything else above dishonor. 46. My dear friend, consider whether nobility of spirit and goodness are not something different from saving others or oneself. Whether a true man should not disregard the length of life and, instead of clinging to it so desperately, leave the matter to the divine and, believing what women say that no one can escape their fate, focus on living as well as possible for the time he must live. 47. Observe the movements of the stars as if rotating together with them, and continually reflect on how one element transforms into another. Contemplating these things purifies us from the filth of earthly life. 48. Beautiful is the thought of Plato. And when observing humanity, one must also look upon earthly things as if from a high vantage point. Herds, armies, cultivated fields, marriages, divorces, births, deaths, the clamor of courts, barren lands, diverse barbarian tribes, festivals, lamentations, markets, all this vast mixture, and the harmonious order that arises from opposites. 49. Reflect on the past, the countless changes of empires and dominions. One can also foresee the future. It will be exactly the same. It is impossible to step outside the rhythm of current events. Thus, examining human life for 40 years or 10,000 is precisely the same. For what more could you see? 50. And so, what is born from the earth returns to the earth, and what springs from the ether returns to the heavenly vault. Or in other words, the dissolution of atomic bonds and a similar dispersal of the imperishable elements. 51. And yet, by seeking with food, drink, and incantations to alter the course of fate, as if to avoid death, the wind that blows from the gods must be endured, suffered without complaint. 52. More skilled in combat, but no more inclined toward the common good, nor more modest, nor more disciplined in the face of events, nor more forgiving of others' mistakes. 53. Where an action can be carried out in accordance with the common reason shared by gods and humans, there is nothing to fear. For where one can achieve success through activity that moves along the right path and aligns with one's true nature, no harm can arise. 54. Everywhere and at all times, it is within your power, by showing devotion to the gods, to feel content with the present situation, to act justly toward those around you, and to apply yourself diligently to the task at hand, ensuring that nothing enters your mind without being thoroughly understood. 55. Do not look around at the guiding principles of others, but focus straight ahead on the goal to which your nature leads you, whether through the universal nature, by means of the events that befall you, or through your own nature, by means of the duties that await you. The duty of each person is to act in accordance with their constitution. Now, while other beings were created for the sake of rational beings, and indeed in every situation, inferior beings exist for the sake of superior ones, rational beings were created for one another. Therefore, the highest value in the constitution of a human being is the inclination to live in harmony with others. Second comes the ability to resist the passions of the body, for it is the nature of reason and intellect to circumscribe themselves and never be subordinate to the movements of the senses or impulses, since both are animalistic movements, while the movement of the intellect seeks to lead and not be dominated by them. This is just without doubt because it is in its nature to govern and make use of all others. A third characteristic in the constitution of a rational being is to avoid hasty judgments and not be deceived. By adhering to these qualities, then, the guiding principle will follow the right path and will have what belongs to it. 56. Consider yourself dead, your life already concluded. From this point on, you must live the remainder of your days as a bonus, in accordance with nature. 57. Love only what happens to you and is woven into your life. For what could be more fitting? 58. For every event that occurs, keep before your eyes those who experienced the same things, how they suffered, marveled, complained, And then ask yourself, where are they now? Nowhere to be found. And so, do you wish to act the same way? Would you not rather leave the disturbances caused by others and the ones who let themselves be disturbed, and instead focus entirely on understanding how to make use of these events? For you can turn them to good purpose and find material for action, provided you pay attention and strive to act virtuously in all that you do, and provided you remember both things, and that what truly matters is the aim of your actions. 59. Dig within yourself. Inside lies the source of goodness, and it can flow endlessly, if your digging is endless. 60. The body too must be steady, not restless in motion or overly relaxed in stillness. One should aim for the whole body to achieve a state akin to what the mind achieves with the face, keeping it composed and dignified. Yet all this must be done without affectation. 61. The art of living is more like the art of wrestling than the art of dancing, for one must always be ready and firmly grounded against unexpected blows. 62. Continuously examine who these people are whose testimony you seek and what guiding principles they follow. For by looking at the sources of their opinions and impulses, you will not complain about those who err unintentionally, nor will you feel the need for their approval. 63. Every soul, it is said, is deprived of truth against its will, and likewise it is deprived of justice, temperance, benevolence, and every similar virtue. Remembering this constantly is most essential. In doing so, you will be more forgiving toward everyone. 64. For every pain, keep this thought close at hand. This is not shameful, nor does it make the guiding mind worse. Neither is rational, nor is social. It does no harm to either aspect. And for most pains, also remember Epicurus' maxim: pain is neither unbearable nor eternal if you recall its limits and avoid adding fantasies to your judgment. Remember this as well. Many unpleasant sensations are equivalent to pain, though we often fail to notice it, like drowsiness, oppressive heat, or loss of appetite. So whenever you feel troubled by one of these sensations, tell yourself, you are giving in to pain. 65. Be careful never to feel toward inhumane people what humans typically feel for one another. 66. How can we know whether Trogg did not possess a moral disposition superior to that of Socrates? It is not enough, after all, that Socrates had a more glorious death, that he debated more skillfully with the sophists, that he demonstrated extraordinary physical endurance by spending a night in the freezing cold, that he nobly chose to disobey the order to arrest the man from Salamis, or that he walked through the streets with head held high, a detail that deserves careful consideration, if true. Instead, we must examine this: what kind of soul Socrates possessed, whether he was content to be just in his dealings with others and pious in his dealings with the gods, whether he refrained from becoming angry at wickedness without cause, whether he was not enslaved by the ignorance of others, whether he accepted as familiar and bore with patience whatever was assigned to him within the universal order, and whether he kept his intellect free from the passions of the flesh. 67. Nature has not blended you into the universal whole in such a way as to prevent you from setting boundaries for yourself and bringing under your control the things that are truly yours. It is entirely possible, after all, to become a divine man without being recognized as such by anyone. Always remember this, and remember also that a happy life depends on very few things. And if you have lost hope of becoming a dialectician or a physicist, do not despair. There is still the possibility of becoming free, modest, fit for society, and obedient to God. 68.
It's good advice.
Live your life without constraint, in the deepest joy of your soul, even if everyone insults you, shouting whatever they please, even if wild beasts tear apart the wretched limbs of this body that has grown around you. For what prevents the mind amidst all this from remaining calm, forming truthful judgments about circumstances, and making ready use of the objects within its power, in such a way that the judgment says to what presents itself, in substance you are this, though you may seem otherwise to opinion, and the action says to what falls within its domain, you are precisely what I sought, For every present moment provides material for rational and social virtue, and in short, for the art of being human or divine. For every event becomes familiar to gods or humans. It is neither strange nor difficult to handle. Rather, it is well known and easy to employ. 69. The full achievement of ethics includes this: to spend each day as if it were your last, without agitation, without apathy, and without pretense. 70. The gods, though immortal, do not grow indignant at being fated to endure, throughout such vast eternity, so many and such wretched beings. On the contrary, they care for them in every possible way. And you, who will soon cease to exist, do you give up? Especially when you are one of those wretched beings yourself? 71. It is absurd not to try to escape one's own wickedness, which is possible, and instead strive to escape the wickedness of others, which is impossible. 72. The rational and social faculty rightly judges as inferior anything that lacks intellect and an inclination toward society. 73. When you have done good and another has received it, why do you pursue a third outcome, like fools, beyond these two? The reputation of being a benefactor? Or the hope of reciprocation? 74. No one grows weary of receiving benefits. Benefits are actions in accordance with nature, so do not grow weary of receiving them even as you give them. 75. The nature of the universe followed the impulse to create the cosmos. Now, either everything that happens is a consequence of that act, or even the most important things are irrational, those toward which the guiding principle of the cosmos directs a particular impulse. Keeping this principle in mind will make you more serene about many things. 1. Their bond is sacred Stoicism. In Stoic physics, all things are bound together by pneuma, the divine spirit that permeates and governs the cosmos. This principle is also called logos, or even God, since every event is part of its rational unfolding. Matter and spirit are inseparable in reality. 2. Share the same origin and participate in the same reason. Stoicism. All rational beings belong to a single cosmic community, united by logos, divine reason, and their shared origin. This reflects the Stoic concept of oikeiosis, by which we are naturally drawn toward one another and toward living in accord with universal nature. 3. It can be set right. Stoicism. A metaphor for moral autonomy. What is right stands firm by itself. If not, it can be corrected by reason. This reflects proheresis, the Stoic faculty of rational choice, through which one guides and reforms oneself without external compulsion. 4. Limb, melos. Stoicism. In Greek, melos means limb, living cooperating member of a whole, while meros means merely a part. Marcus emphasizes that we are not just fragments of the world, but rational limbs of a unified, purposeful community. 5. Remain an emerald. Stoicism. A metaphor for moral integrity. For the Stoics, to be good is to live in accordance with one's rational nature. Like an emerald that retains its color, the wise person remains constant in virtue, regardless of others' actions. 6. Happiness is a good demon. Philosophy. Happiness translates eudaimonia, literally, having a good daimon, or guiding spirit. In Greek ethics, eudaimonia is the fulfilled life, the highest good, attained by living in accordance with one's nature and virtue. 7. How many chrysipposes? Stoicism. Marcus alludes to the Stoic doctrine of eternal recurrence, palingenesia, according to which the universe repeats itself in identical cycles. In this view, there have been, and will be again, countless chrysipposes, Socrateses, and Epictetuses. Feel compassion for them. Stoicism. While Stoicism discouraged passions like pity, Marcus advocates a tempered compassion here, as preferable to anger. Anger arises from false judgments about indifference external events wrongly perceived as moral harms. Recognizing this helps us respond with reason instead of emotion. 9. Easier for you to be lenient. Stoicism. Marcus draws on the Socratic Stoic view that wrongdoing stems from ignorance. The wise understand good and evil differently than the masses and see it as a duty to tolerate and help correct those who err. 10. Dismiss the impression. Stoicism. For the Stoics, impressions, fantasy, strike the soul constantly, but we are free to withhold assent. By dismissing a disturbing impression before judging it, we preserve our inner peace and avoid irrational emotion. 11. All things exist by convention. Literature. Fragment 125, deals Krantz, from Democritus. It reflects his atomist view that everything real consists of atoms and the void, what exists, to on, and what does not, to me on. A foundational idea in early materialist philosophy. Marcus is not engaging in metaphysical speculation, but rather expressing Stoic common sense. Most things people consider good are, in fact, indifferent. 12. Dispersion, extinction, or transformation. Philosophy. Marcus presents the Epicurean view of death as atomic dispersal, and the Stoic possibilities of extinction or transformation. In all cases, death is a natural process unworthy of fear. 13. On fame, Stoicism. Marcus argues that fame is worthless because it depends on the opinions of people who often misjudge what is good or bad. Since they lack wisdom, what they praise cannot have true value. 14. To someone with a noble mind. Literature. Plato, Republic Vi, 486a. Describes how the philosopher is perceived as dangerous or mad by the ignorant, highlighting the alienation of true virtue.
We leveled up to 13, we took an intellect.
Literature. Attributed to Antisthenes, founder of the Cynic school. Cited in Diogenes Laertius, Lives, Vi.3, and Epictetus, Discourses, Vi.6.20. 16. One should not, literature, first half of fragment 287, Nauk, from Euripides' Bellerophon, a lost tragedy of which only fragments survive. Reflects detachment from material wealth and external possessions. 17. Grant both. Literature. Source unknown, possibly
got
drawn
some good
from
buddies
lost,
here.
tragic, or
It's a
epic
good guild.
fragments. 18. To reap life. Literature. Fragment 757, Nauk, from Euripides' Hypsipyle, a play now largely lost. Though only fragments remain, the line reflects Euripides' characteristic focus on human emotion and moral complexity, even within mythological narratives. 19. And if the gods, literature, fragment 208, Nauk, from Euripides' Antiope, a play of which a substantial number of fragments have survived. It is part of fragment 207 in Nauk's second edition. Marcus interprets the mention of reason quite literally here, aligning it with the Stoic belief that every event, however painful or adverse, is governed by divine reason and contributes to the rational order of the cosmos. 20. Goodness and justice. Literature. Fragment 918, Nauk, from Euripides. Echoes, Stoic ethics. Virtue is self-contained and not dependent on externals. 21. Do not join, literature. Source unknown. Possibly from a tragic or philosophical fragment urging composure in the face of death. 22. To this, literature. Plato, Apology, 28b. Socrates defends the idea that a just person cannot truly be harmed.
I wish I could spell better.
His claim reflects the belief that moral integrity is invulnerable to external misfortune, a view that deeply influenced
So we need
later
to get
Stoic
a few
thinkers,
more years.
including Marcus Aurelius. 23. For the truth. Literature. Plato, Apology, 28d. Socrates argues that to fear death is to claim knowledge one does not possess. Since no one truly knows what death entails, dreading it reveals not wisdom, but ignorance. particularly a failure to understand that real harm lies in wrongdoing, not in dying. 24. My dear friend, literature, Plato, Gorgias 5, 12d. Socrates urges his interlocutor to reflect critically on the moral quality of his life. The line highlights a central theme in Platonic thought, the necessity of self-examination as
I like
the
the term
foundation of a just and
interlocutor
meaningful
for a
existence.
person that you're disagreeing
25.
with. Interlocutor.
Harmonious order that arises from opposites, philosophy. Greek thought long held that the cosmos results from the interplay of opposites. For example, harmony emerges from the tension between light and dark, motion and stillness, contrasts that sustain the natural order. 26. What is born? Literature, fragment 839, Nauk, from Euripides. A timeless reflection on mortality and the natural cycle of life and death, it evokes the idea that all living beings are bound to the earth, and in death, return to their origin. 27. By seeking, literature, Euripides, The Suppliant Women, 1110. Critique of excess and indulgence. It reflects the tragic poet's warning that overabundance, whether in food, wealth, or pleasure, can lead to moral decay and destruction. 28. The Wind That Blows. Literature. Fragment 303, Nauk, from an unknown tragic poet. It evokes the image of grief carried off by the wind, suggesting both the fleeting nature of sorrow and the helplessness of human lament in the face of fate. 29. By showing devotion to the gods, Stoicism. Marcus refers to the Stoic belief that the gods, or universal nature, have arranged all things wisely. Accepting the present with reverence is a way of aligning oneself with the divine order, Logos. 30. Avoid hasty judgments, Stoicism. The soul receives impressions, Phantasii, but it is up to us to give or withhold assent, Synkatathesis. Hasty assent lead to error, either about the nature of what appears or about its value. 31. Material for action, Stoicism. Although virtue is self-sufficient, it requires materials to be exercised. These are the indifferents we encounter daily. By responding to them rightly, we turn external events into material for moral action. 32. Every soul, literature, possibly from Plato's Republic 3:412e or Sophist 2:28c, where truth is portrayed as intimately linked to the divine and to the soul's highest capacities. Also echoed in Epictetus.
Yeah.
Discourses 28.4 to 22.36, blending Platonic and Stoic perspectives in which truth is not only rational but sacred, an expression of the divine logos that governs the cosmos and guides the wise. 33. Pain is neither. Philosophy. Fragment 447. Listener from Epicurus of Samos, 341 to 270 BCE. Founder of a major philosophical school in Athens that, despite notable differences, shared certain features with Stoicism, particularly in the areas of physics and ethics. However, it is essential to recall a key divergence. While Stoicism identified the exercise of virtue as the highest good and ultimate aim of life, Epicureanism held that human beings should live in pursuit of pleasure, understood as the absence of pain and disturbance. 34. Giving in to pain, Stoicism. Pain is an indifferent, neither good nor bad in itself. To yield to it is a failure of rational will, proeresis, showing weakness of judgment and control. The Stoic aim is to rise above both pain and pleasure. 35. Plagius, biography. Presumed son of Pythagoras and, according to some sources, teacher of Empedocles. According to some ancient sources, the teacher of Empedocles. While historical details are scarce, Pelagius appears as a semi-legendary figure in the transmission of early philosophical doctrines, particularly within the Pythagorean tradition. 36. Nights in the Freezing Cold, literature. Plato, Symposium. 220 AD, refers to Socrates' legendary endurance during the Potidaea campaign. Standing barefoot in freezing conditions, Socrates becomes a symbol of both physical fortitude and moral resilience, an embodiment of the philosophical ideal of mastering the body through the strength of the soul. 37. Man from Salamis, history, referenced in Plato's Apology, 32 CD. Socrates recounts how he defied the 30 tyrants by refusing to take part in an unjust political execution of a citizen from Salamis. The moment highlights Socrates' allegiance to justice, even at personal risk, and his belief that moral integrity must prevail over obedience to authority. 38.
Oops.
Walked through the streets. Literature, Aristophanes, Clouds,
We're getting there.
362. A comedy known for its sharp satire of philosophers and intellectual trends in Athens. The phrase is likely meant ironically, poking fun at the self-importance or exaggerated dignity of certain philosophical types, particularly those who, like Socrates in the play, are portrayed as absurdly detached from everyday life. 39. Escape one's own wickedness. Stoicism. We have full power over our own moral character, but not over others. For the Stoics, virtue lies in governing oneself. Trying to control or avoid others' faults is both futile and irrational. 40. No one grows weary of. Stoicism. Acting in accordance with nature is itself a benefit, both to others and to oneself. What is good for the whole is good for the part. Thus, benefiting others aligns with the Stoic goal of virtuous self-realization. Book 8. Lessons in Humility. Giovanni Battista Piranesi. Veduta dell'Anna Pietro Flavio. Detto il Colosseo. The Colosseum, majestic in decay, embodies Marcus's amor fati. Just as cracks weave through the amphitheater's stones, life's trials are threads in a grander tapestry. This realization alone should be enough to suppress all vanity. You can no longer achieve the goal of living an entire life, or at least the part that follows youth, as a philosopher. Indeed, it is now clear to many, and even to yourself, that you fall short of philosophy. The confusion you've fallen into is such that it is no longer easy for you to earn the reputation of a philosopher, and the foundations of your life oppose it. So, if you have truly understood what matters most, stop worrying about what others think of you, and be content to live out the rest of your days, however long they may be as your nature demands. Reflect then on what your nature requires, and let nothing distract you. For you have already wandered through so many paths without finding happiness, not in syllogisms, not in wealth, not in fame, not in pleasure, nowhere. Where is it then? In doing what human nature demands. And how can a person do this? By having principles guide their impulses and actions. What principles? Those concerning good and evil. Namely, that nothing is good for a person unless it makes them just.
We are just knocking it out today, guys.
And nothing
I
is
hope
evil
you're learning
unless it
something.
produces the opposite vices. 2. For every single action, ask yourself, what does this action mean for me?
It's a really, really nice shield.
In a moment, I will be dead, and everything will vanish. If the present action belongs to a being endowed with reason, inclined to social living, and sharing the same laws as God, what more could I seek? 3. What are Alexander, Gaius, and Pompey compared to Diogenes, Heraclitus, and Socrates? The latter, after all, saw reality, its causes, and its substance, and their guiding principles were self-sufficient. But those others, how many things they worried about, and how enslaved they were. 4. They will do the very same things, even if you die. 5. First, do not be troubled, for everything happens according to the nature of the universe, and soon you will be no one, nowhere, just like Hadrian, just like Augustus. Then focus your attention on the thing itself, and remembering that you must be a virtuous person and what human nature demands, act without hesitation, and speak in the way that seems most just to you, but with kindness, with discretion, and without hypocrisy. 6. The nature of the universe is devoted to this, moving things from here to there, transforming them, taking them from one place and carrying them to another. Everything is change, and there is no reason to fear anything new. All is familiar. Similarly, the workings of fate are always the same. 7. Every nature is content when it proceeds happily along its own path, and a rational nature proceeds happily if, among impressions, it does not assent to what is false or unclear. If it directs its impulses solely toward actions beneficial to the community, and with regard to desires and aversions, if it limits their scope to things within our control, while wholeheartedly embracing whatever is assigned to it by universal nature. For it is a part of that nature, just as the nature of a leaf is part of the nature of a plant, except that, in this case, the nature of the leaf is part of an insensible, irrational, and obstructible nature, whereas the nature of a human is part of a nature that cannot be obstructed, endowed with reason and justice, which assigns to each person portions of time, substance, cause, action, and outcome that are equivalent and correspond to merit. Do not, however, examine the equivalence of one factor to another in every individual being, but rather the overall equivalence between all factors of one thing and all factors of another. 8. It is not possible to read. But it is possible to resist arrogance. It is possible to master pleasures and pains. It is possible to rise above fame. It is possible not to grow angry with the thoughtless and the ungrateful, and further, to care for them. 9. Let no one, not even yourself, hear you criticizing life at court. Regret is a kind of self-reproach for having neglected something useful, but it is virtue that constitutes what is truly useful, and the morally superior person must practice it. Yet no morally superior person could ever regret neglecting some pleasure. Therefore, pleasure is neither useful nor a good. 11. What is this thing in and of itself, in its own particular nature? What is its material and substantial component? What is its causal component? What role does it play in the cosmos? And for how long does it endure? 12. When you find it hard to wake up, remember that taking actions for the common good is in harmony with your nature as a human being, while sleeping is something even irrational creatures do. What is natural for each person is most fitting, most congenial, and most pleasing to them. 13. Constantly, and if possible, at every impression, apply the science of nature, the science of the passions, and dialectic. 14. Whoever you meet, immediately ask yourself, what principles does this person hold about good and evil? For if they have certain principles regarding pleasure and pain, and the causes of each, as well as fame and obscurity, life and death, it will not seem strange or surprising to me that they act in a certain way, and I will remember that it is inevitable for them to act as they do. 15. Remember that it is no more remarkable to wonder at a fig tree producing figs than it is to wonder at the universe producing events of this kind, events that are its natural output. Nor is it fitting for a doctor to be surprised when someone falls ill, or for a helmsman to be astonished when the wind turns against him. 16. Remember that changing your opinion and following someone who corrects you is equally a sign of freedom. For it is your own action, carried out according to your own impulse and judgment, and above all, according to your own reason. 17. If it depends on you, why are you doing it? If it depends on others, who are you angry with? The atoms or the gods? Either way, it is madness. Do not blame anyone, for if you can, correct the person. If you cannot, correct at least what they have done. If you cannot even do that, what good does it do to be upset? Do nothing without purpose. 18. What is dead does not fall outside the cosmos. If it remains here, it transforms and dissolves into its own elements, elements that belong to the cosmos and to you. These too will transform, and they do so without complaint. 19. Every single thing exists for a purpose, the horse, the vine. So why are you surprised? Even the sun will say, I exist for a specific task, and so will the other gods. And you, what purpose do you serve? To indulge in pleasure? Decide for yourself whether that notion is acceptable. 20. For every being, nature has as much regard for the end of its existence as for its beginning and its course. Just as with someone throwing a ball. What good does it do the ball to rise, and what harm in falling or already lying on the ground? What good is an unbroken bubble, and what harm in a burst one? The same applies to a lamp. 21. Turn it over and see what it is, what it becomes in old age, in sickness, in indulgence. Life is short for those who praise and those who are praised, for those who remember and those who are remembered, and all this happens in just a corner of this tiny region of the world, where people cannot even agree with one another, or even with themselves. And the entire earth is but a speck. 22. Pay attention to the object, the action, the principle, or the meaning. This is what you deserve. You prefer to become virtuous tomorrow instead of being so today. 23. Do I act? I act with a view to the benefit of humanity. Does something happen to me? I accept it, relating it to the gods and to the source of all things, from which all events flow in close connection. 24. Just as the bath presents itself to you, oil, sweat, dirt, greasy water, all things repulsive, so too is every part of life and every object. 25. Lucilla buried Verus, then Lucilla died. Secunda buried Maximus, then Secunda died. Epitintianus buried Diotimus, then Epitintianus died. Antoninus buried Faustina, then Antoninus died. It is always the same. Celer buried Hadrian, then Celer died. And those men of talent, foresight, or arrogance, where are they now? For instance, among the talented, Charax, Demetrius the Platonist, Eudemus, and others like them. All fleeting, long dead. Some were forgotten almost immediately. Others became legends, and still others have been erased even from legend. Remember this, then. Inevitably, your body will disintegrate, or your breath will be extinguished or transferred elsewhere. 26. True joy for a human being lies in doing what is uniquely human. And what is uniquely human is kindness toward others, disdain for sensory impulses, careful examination of plausible impressions, and contemplation of universal nature and all that unfolds in accordance with it. 27. 3 relationships. One with the vessel that contains us, another with the divine cause from which all things flow for everyone, and a third with those who live alongside us. 28. Either pain is an evil for the body, and if so, let the body speak up, or it is an evil for the soul. But the soul is capable of preserving its own serenity and calm, and of refusing to judge pain as an evil. For every judgment, impulse, desire, and aversion lies within us, and no evil can penetrate this far. 29. Dismiss your impressions by constantly reminding yourself, it is within my power to ensure that there is no wickedness, no desire, and in short, no disturbance in this soul of mine. Instead, by seeing each thing for what it truly is, I will use it according to its true worth. Remember this ability. 30. Speak in accordance with nature, whether in the Senate or with anyone else, with dignity, without pretense, and use language that is sincere. 31. The court of Augustus, wife, daughter, grandchildren, stepchildren, sister, Agrippa, relatives, household, friends, Arius, Maecenas, doctors, priests, all dead, the entire court. Then move on to the others. Not the death of a single man like the Pompeys. And consider the inscription carved on tombstones, the last of his line. Think of all the effort their ancestors put into leaving behind an heir, only for one to inevitably come along who is the last. Again, all dead, another entire family wiped out. 32. Life must be composed one action at a time, and you should be content if each individual action achieves its goal within the limits of what is possible. No one can prevent you from achieving it. but some external obstacle will arise.
Well done, adventurer.
Even so, it will not hinder a just, temperate, and rational course of action. Perhaps it may obstruct some other activity. But by accepting the obstacle calmly and willingly turning to what is permitted, another action immediately arises that aligns with the construction we are discussing. 33. Take without ostentation. Leave without resistance. 34. If you've ever seen a hand severed from the body, or a foot, or a head lying apart from the rest, well, such is the condition of anyone who refuses to accept what happens and cuts themselves off from the universe, or acts against the common good. You have cast yourself into some corner, isolating yourself from the natural unity. You were born as a part, and now you are severed. But here lies the greatness. You can return to that unity. The divine has not granted any other part, once separated and cut off, the ability to reunite itself. Yet observe the goodness with which humanity has been honored. At the outset, it was given the power not to separate itself, and even after separation, the power to return, to reattach itself to the whole organism, and reclaim its place as a part. 35. Just as the nature of rational beings grants each of them its faculties, so too have we received this ability from it, in the same way that nature overturns anything that obstructs or opposes it. Transforming it into part of its own order and making it a part of itself, so too can the rational being turn every obstacle into material for itself and use it for the purpose, whatever it may be, that aligns with its guiding impulse. 36. Do not let the image of your entire life overwhelm you. Do not dwell on all the suffering you may have to endure in the future. Instead, when each difficulty arises, ask yourself what about it is truly unbearable or insurmountable. You will be ashamed to admit that anything could be so. Then remind yourself that it is not the future or the past that weighs you down, but always the present. And the present, if you isolate it within its limits, becomes much smaller. If your mind cannot bear even this fleeting moment, hold it accountable. 37. Do Pontia or Pergamus still sit by the tomb of Verus? Or Cabria or Diotimus by the tomb of Hadrian? What absurdity! And even if they did, could Verus or Hadrian perceive it? And if they could perceive it, would they find joy in it? And if they did find joy, would their freedmen become immortal? Was it not fated that these mourners too would grow old and die? And when they themselves die, what would their masters do then? 38. All this is nothing but stench and decaying blood in a bag. So if you have sharp vision, put it to use. 39. Judging, as he says, with the wisest, I see no virtue in the rational being that opposes justice. But against pleasure, I do see self-control arise. 40. If you suppress your opinion about what seems to afflict you, you have placed yourself in the safest position possible. Yourself, who? Your reason. But I am not my reason. Very well, then it is reason that must not afflict itself. And if it is another part of you that suffers, it is up to that part to form an opinion about itself. 41. The obstruction of sensation is an evil for the animal nature. The obstruction of impulse is, again, an evil for the animal nature. Similarly, there is something that obstructs and harms the vegetative nature. Thus, the obstruction of the intellect is an evil for the rational nature.
Oh, we're making such good progress.
Does pain or pleasure touch you? Let sensation deal with it. Has an obstacle arisen to your impulse? If your impulse is unconditional, then it is already a harm to you as a rational being. But if you grasp the general principle, you have not yet been harmed or obstructed. No one else, however, can obstruct the proper activities of the intellect, for it cannot be touched by fire, iron, tyrants, slander, or anything else. When it becomes a perfectly rounded sphere, it remains so. 42. It is not right for me to afflict myself, for I have never willingly afflicted anyone else. 43. One person rejoices in this, another in that, but I rejoice if my guiding principle is sound. if it holds no aversion toward any human being or anything that happens to humans, but looks upon all things with benevolent eyes, accepts everything, and uses each thing according to its true worth. 44. Give this present moment to yourself. Those who chase fame among future generations fail to realize that those future generations will be just like the people of today, people he cannot stand. And they too will be mortal. In the end, what does it matter if someday others speak of you with certain words or hold a particular opinion about you? 45. Take me and throw me wherever you will. There indeed I will keep my demon serene, content with a disposition and activity aligned with its own nature. Is there anything so valuable that my soul should be disturbed for it, becoming worse by sinking into dejection, craving, being overwhelmed, or succumbing to fear? And what could you possibly find that holds such worth? 46. Nothing can happen to a man that is not an event connected to the human condition. Nothing to an ox that is not connected to the ox's condition. Nothing to a vine that is not connected to the vine's nature, nor to a stone that is not proper to a stone. If then each being experiences what is customary and natural to it, why should you be irritated? For the common nature has brought you nothing unbearable. 47. If you suffer because of something external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it, and it is within your power to erase that judgment immediately. But if you suffer because of something within your own disposition, who can prevent you from correcting your opinion? Likewise, if you suffer for not doing a particular thing that seems right to you, why not do it instead of suffering? But there is an obstacle stronger than me. Then stop suffering. The cause of your inaction does not lie within you. But life is not worth living if I cannot perform this action. In that case, leave life with a willing heart, just as one who can perform the action would die, while remaining serene toward whatever obstructs
I got a little lost.
48. Remember that the guiding principle becomes invincible when, drawing inward, it is content not to do what it does not want, even if it has no reason to resist. What then when it judges something with careful reasoning? For this reason, a mind free from passions is an acropolis. Indeed, man has no stronger refuge where he can retreat to become forever unassailable. Now, whoever has not seen this fortress is ignorant. Whoever has seen it and does not take refuge in it is wretched. 49. Do not say to yourself anything more than what immediate impressions report. It has been reported to you that someone speaks ill of you. That is all that has been reported, not that you have been harmed. I see that the child is sick. That is all I see, not that the child is in danger. Always stay with the first impressions, adding nothing from within yourself, and nothing will happen to you. Or rather, add what you will, but only as one who knows how to recognize each event within the cosmos. 50. A bitter cucumber? Throw it away. Thorns on the path? Step aside. That is all. Do not add, but why do such things exist in the cosmos? Otherwise, you will be mocked by those who understand the science of nature, just as a carpenter or cobbler would laugh at you if you complained about seeing shavings and scraps in their workshop. True, they at least have somewhere to dispose of these scraps, but the nature of the universe has nothing outside itself. And the wonder of its art lies in this. After enclosing itself, it transforms within itself everything that seems to decay, age, or become useless, and from this very material, it creates new products. Thus, it needs no substance from outside, nor does it require a place to expel what has perished. It suffices for the universe to have its own space, its own matter, and the art that belongs to it. 51. Do not be careless in your actions or confused in your speech. Do not wander among fleeting impressions. Do not withdraw completely into yourself, nor, at the opposite extreme, throw yourself out of balance. In life, do not deprive yourself entirely of leisure. They may kill, maim, curse. But how does any of this prevent the mind from remaining pure, clear, wise, and just? It would be like someone standing by a spring of clear, sweet water and cursing it. Naturally, the spring does not stop flowing with pure water. and if someone throws mud or filth into it, the spring will quickly scatter and wash it away, remaining untouched by the pollution. How then can you have within you an ever-flowing spring? By remaining free, benevolent, simple, and self-restrained in every moment. 52. Whoever does not know that there is a cosmos does not know where they themselves are. And whoever does not know the purpose for which the cosmos exists does not know who they are, nor what the cosmos is. Whoever has neglected even one of these points cannot say for what purpose they themselves exist. What then do you think of those who seek the praise of people who do not know where they are or who they are? 53. Do you wish to be praised by a man who curses himself 3 times an hour? Do you wish to be liked by someone who does not even like himself? Can a person who regrets nearly everything he does truly like himself? 54. No longer be content merely to breathe in harmony with the air around you. Now you must also think in harmony with the universal intellect that encompasses all things. For the rational faculty is spread everywhere, permeating all who are capable of drawing from it, no less than the air permeates those who can breathe it. 55. In general, wickedness does no harm at all to the cosmos, and individual wickedness harms others not in the least. Instead, it is harmful only to the one who possesses the power to rid themselves of it, as soon as they choose to do so. 56. For my faculty of ethical choice, the corresponding faculty of another is just as indifferent as their mere breath or flesh. For although we exist as much as possible for one another, still each person's guiding principle has its own sovereignty. Otherwise, the wickedness of another would become my own evil, something God did not intend, so as to prevent others from having the power to make me unhappy. 57. The light of the sun appears to be spread out, and indeed it is spread everywhere, but it is not poured out. This spreading, in fact, is an extension. Its beams are called rays because they stretch outward. You can see the nature of a ray if you observe sunlight entering a dark room through a narrow crack. It extends straight ahead and, in a way, rests on whatever solid object blocks its path, cutting off the air beyond. There, the ray stops. It does not slip or fall, but halts and illuminates the object that receives it. It is the object that fails to reflect the light that is left in darkness. Likewise, thought must flow and extend, not pour out, but stretch forth, without colliding violently with obstacles, without falling, but stopping and illuminating what it encounters. It is the object that fails to reflect its light that remains deprived. 58. Whoever fears death fears either insensibility or a different kind of sensibility. But if you will no longer have any sensibility, you will feel no evil. And if you will have a different kind of sensibility, you will be a different being, and you will not cease to live. 59. Men exist for one another. Teach them then, or endure them. 60. The motion of an arrow is one thing. The motion of the intellect is another. Yet when the intellect proceeds with caution and focuses intently on its examination, it moves straight and toward its target no less than the arrow. 61. Enter into the guiding principle of each person, but also allow anyone else to enter into yours. Reality, its causes, and its substance. Philosophy. Marcus adopts the Stoic distinction between cause, idea, and matter, to praise true understanding. Though the thinkers he names weren't Stoics, he treats this analysis as a practical way to grasp the essence of things. 2. Portions of time, substance, cause. Stoicism. Marcus affirms the justice of universal nature, which distributes all things according to merit and purpose. This reflects the idea of geometrical or proportional equality. Each receives what is due, not the same as others, but what fits their nature and role. 3. Criticizing life at court. Stoicism. For the Stoics, external conditions, like court life, do not determine the quality of one's life. Only our judgments and choices do. Complaining surrenders moral autonomy to things beyond our control. 4. What is this thing? Stoicism. Marcus describes a Stoic exercise in rational analysis. breaking down a thing into its matter, cause, role, and duration. The aim is to delay assent and ensure sound judgment, since clear perception is essential to moral integrity. 5. Science of nature, passions, and dialectic. Stoicism. Marcus refers to the Stoic division of philosophy into 3 parts: physics, nature, ethics, the passions and how to live well, and logic, reasoning and dialectic. Each part supports sound judgment and virtuous living. Principles. About good and evil. Stoicism. For both Socrates and the Stoics, behavior stems from belief. Vice is caused by false opinions. Virtue requires correcting them. Marcus writes and repeats sound ideas to reinforce rational judgment and right action. 7. Does not fall outside the cosmos. Stoicism. In Stoic physics, the universe is surrounded by infinite void, but nothing ever leaves the cosmos. The void is the absence of matter and cannot contain or receive anything. All change remains within the bounds of nature. 8. Exists for a purpose. Stoicism. The Stoics believe that everything in the cosmos serves a function within the rational order of nature. Each thing was created with a purpose, as part of the divine plan governed by reason. Logos. 9. Bath presents itself. Stoicism. Marcus uses the bath as a metaphor for life's messiness. While Stoicism teaches acceptance of whatever nature or the gods present, Marcus often expresses a tension between this ideal and his personal aversion to people and things, a struggle between reason, logos, and instinctive reaction. Men. Verus, Lucilla. Biography. Refers to Marcus Aurelius' parents, Marcus Annius Verus and Domitia Lucilla. Both are prominently mentioned in Book I of the Meditations, where Marcus expresses deep gratitude for their influence. His father for his dignity and integrity, and his mother for her generosity and devotion to a simple, virtuous life. 11. Maximus Secunda, biography. Claudius Maximus was a Stoic philosopher and one of Marcus Aurelius' most respected mentors, admired for his self-discipline, calm strength, and moral clarity. Secunda, his wife, is mentioned in passing but serves as a quiet testament to their shared life of simplicity and virtue. 12. Epidincinus, Diotimus, Antoninus, and Faustina. Biography, uncertain. Epidincinus and Diotimus are otherwise unknown. Antoninus refers to Antoninus Pius, and Faustina to his wife, Annia Galeria Faustina, Marcus' adoptive parents and imperial predecessors. 13. Hadrian Celer, biography. Emperor Hadrian, 117 to 138 CE, and his secretary, Caninius Celer. The reference emphasizes both political stature and philosophical aspirations within the imperial court. 14. Charax, Demetrius, Eudaimones, biography. Charax may be the Greek historian mentioned in the Suda, known for his geographical and historical works. Demetrius is likely the Cynic philosopher who was exiled by Vespasian, remembered for his sharp tongue and fearless criticism of authority. Eudaimones was probably a secretary and confidant of Emperor Hadrian. Together, these figures reflect the complex intersection of intellect and imperial power. 15. 3 relationships. Stoicism. Marcus outlines 3 core duties: to oneself, governed by reason, not passions; to the gods, as source of all through logos; and to others, through justice and kindness. Together they define a life lived in accordance with nature. 16. Agrippa, Arius, Maecenas. History. Agrippa, a skilled general and son-in-law of Augustus, played a vital role in securing the empire's stability. Arius Didymus, a Stoic philosopher and advisor to Augustus, helped shape the intellectual foundations of the regime. Maecenas, a trusted political aide and renowned patron of the arts, fostered a flourishing literary culture. All are associated with Augustan Rome's intellectual and civic life. 17. Then move on to the others. Textual note. This line appears in a corrupted or incomplete passage. 18. The Pompeys, history, likely refers to the descendants of Pompey the Great, 106 to 48 BCE, many of whom met tragic ends during the Roman civil wars. Once a symbol of immense military and political power, the family's downfall serves as a sobering reminder of how fragile legacy can be in the face of shifting fortune and political upheaval. 19. Life must be composed. Stoicism. The Stoic acts with reservation, opexaresis, knowing that obstacles may arise. If blocked, he accepts the limitation calmly and redirects himself toward what reason and nature still allow, preserving virtue in every circumstance. 20. Just as the nature, textual note. This passage is corrupt in the manuscript tradition. 21. Always the present, Stoicism. Marcus focuses on the present, to none, as the only time under our control. Dwelling on the past lead to regret. Anticipating the future lead to anxiety. The Stoic lives now, rationally and virtuously, free from emotional disturbance. 22. Pantia, Pergamus, Cabrius, Diotimus, biography uncertain. Pantia of Smyrna was known as the concubine of Lucius Verus, co-emperor with Marcus Aurelius. The others remain unidentified, mentioned as examples of ephemeral fame or forgotten influence. Their mention underscores a recurring Stoic theme, the fleeting nature of fame and the ultimate insignificance of worldly reputation. 23. Opposes justice. Stoicism. For the Stoics, justice, dikaiosyn, is a foundational virtue, giving each their due in accord with nature. If pleasure, hedon, is made the goal, the virtues lose coherence. But when justice lead, all other virtues align naturally. The source of the quotation is unknown. 24. Perfectly rounded sphere. Literature, fragments 27 to 28, Diels Kranz, from Empedocles. These lines describe the primordial divine sphere as perfectly complete, self-contained, and undivided, a symbol of unity, harmony, and the original state of being. In Marcus Aurelius's context, it evokes a philosophical ideal of self-sufficiency and cosmic order. 25. Connected to the human condition. Stoicism. Marcus illustrates the universality of nature by listing stages of the scala naturae, rational beings, animals, plants, and inanimate objects. Nothing happens to any of them that is not proper to their nature and role within the cosmos. 26. Guiding principle, Stoicism. The guiding principle, hegemonikon, is the ruling faculty of the soul. It becomes invincible when it governs itself inwardly and resists acting against its will. Unreasonableness does not reflect its absence, but its failure to function in accord with reason. 27. Immediate impressions, Stoicism. The Stoics trained themselves to perceive events as they are, without adding value judgments. Impressions, phantasii, arise naturally, but we must withhold assent, psychotatheses, until reason has judged them. This is essential for mastering the passions. 28. Why do such things exist in the cosmos? Stoicism. The Stoics held that apparent evils exist either to highlight the good by contrast, or because what seems bad is actually part of a greater good when seen through reason. The cosmos, governed by logos, includes nothing superfluous. 29. Rational faculty is spread everywhere. Stoicism. The universe is permeated by pneuma, the vital spirit that sustains and organizes all things. Rational beings draw from this universal logos, just as living beings draw breath from the air. 30. Raise and stretch. Philosophy. Marcus presents a speculative etymology linking the Greek word for raise, octines, with the verb to stretch, ektine. While linguistically inaccurate, this kind of wordplay was common in ancient philosophy, where etymology often served as a tool for symbolic reasoning. The association reflects a Stoic habit of drawing natural analogies to illustrate the structure and function of the cosmos. 31. Whoever fears death, Stoicism. Marcus explores two options after death: insensibility, which cannot be feared, and a different mode of being, which implies continuity. While spirit, pneuma, survives longer than the body, Marcus here hints at survival of consciousness, not just structure. Book 9. Community and Reciprocity. Giovanni Battista Piranesi, Beduta degli avanzi del tablino della casa Aurea di Nerone, detti volgarmente il tempio della pace. The Basilica of Maxentius, once a place of communal gathering, recalls human interconnectedness and the morality Marcus urges us to cultivate. To commit injustice is to commit impiety, for since universal nature has created rational beings for one another, so that they may help each other according to their worth and not harm one another in any way, whoever goes against its will is clearly impious toward the most venerable of divinities. Likewise, to lie deliberately is also impiety toward the same goddess, for universal nature is the nature of all beings, and all beings are intimately connected with what exists. Moreover, it is also called truth, and is the source of all truth. Therefore, whoever lies deliberately commits impiety by deceiving, which is an act of injustice. And whoever lies
Okay, we got
unintentionally
3
commits
strength,
injustice by being
1
at odds
intellect.
with universal nature and disturbing its
We'll
order,
go ahead and go
fighting against the nature of the cosmos.
3 and 2.
For such a person takes up arms by willingly moving toward the opposite of truth. Though they initially received from nature the necessary foundations to discern truth, they have abandoned them and can no longer distinguish falsehood from truth. Furthermore, it is also impiety to pursue pleasure as good and flee pain as evil. Such a person inevitably criticizes universal nature often, believing that it acts unjustly in distributing things to the unworthy and the virtuous, since the former often live in pleasure and attain what brings pleasure, while the latter suffer pain and what causes it. Moreover, whoever fears pain will eventually fear some event in the cosmos, and this alone is already impiety.
I'm pretty holy.
Whoever pursues pleasure will not refrain from
Give me
committing
spiritual
injustice,
focus
and
next.
this is plainly impious. While someone who wishes to follow nature must
Save
be
my
equally
life.
accepting of what universal nature includes impartially, for it would not have produced both things if it did not have equal regard for them. Therefore, whoever does not have equal regard for pain and pleasure, death and life, fame and obscurity, things that universal nature uses indifferently, commits impiety. By saying that universal nature uses these things indifferently, I mean that they occur indiscriminately,
Yeah, I think
in
I want
accordance
it.
with events and their consequences, following an original impulse of providence. Through this impulse, proceeding from its origin, providence set this cosmic order in motion, conceiving certain reasons for future things and defining forces capable of generating substances, transformations, and similar successions. 2. A person of elevated spirit should leave life without ever having tasted falsehood, hypocrisy, weakness, or vanity. To depart at the very least with a sense of revulsion for these things is, if nothing else, the second best course to choose. Or was it your choice to remain anchored to evil? And has experience still not persuaded you to flee this plague? For corruption of the mind is truly a plague, far more so than any noxious change in the surrounding air. That latter is a plague afflicting living beings as such, but this is a plague afflicting humans as humans. 3. Do not despise death, but welcome it gladly, since it too is one of the things willed by nature. Just as the completion of youth and old age, growth and full maturity, teething, the sprouting of facial hair, graying, conception, pregnancy, childbirth, and all the other natural activities that accompany the seasons of life, so too is dissolution itself. This then is the conduct of a reasoning person. Do not approach death with vague generalizations or with rejection or disdain, but await it as one of the natural processes. Just as you now await the moment when a child will emerge from your wife's womb, so too should you await the moment when your soul will slip free from its casing. And, if you want a rule that is not strictly philosophical but one that touches the heart, it will make you well disposed toward death to consider the things you are about to leave behind, and the sorts of characters your soul will no longer have to mingle with. For while it is certainly wrong to be in conflict with others, and instead we must care for them and endure them patiently, you must not forget that your departure will not be from men who share your principles. That would indeed be the only reason to hesitate and cling to life, the chance to live alongside those who embrace the same principles as you. But now you see clearly how exhausting it is to disagree with those around you, to the point that one might say, "Come quickly,
Pretty good team here.
lest I forget myself." 4. Whoever errs against themselves. Whoever commits injustice harms themselves because they become wicked. Injustice is committed not only by those who act, but often also by those who fail to act. 6. These are enough. A perception capable of grasping reality in the present
Great
moment,
team approach.
an action useful to the community in the present moment, and a disposition ready to accept everything that, in the present moment, comes from external causes. 7. Erase the image, halt the impulse, extinguish the desire. Keep your guiding principle under control. 8. A single soul is shared among irrational beings, and a single rational soul is divided among rational beings. Just as there is one earth that forms all things earthly, one light by which we see, and one air that we all breathe, beings endowed with sight and life. 9. Everything that shares a common element tends toward what is of similar nature. All that is earthy inclines toward the earth. All liquids flow together. The same is true for air, so much so that forceful barriers are needed to prevent it. Fire, because of its fiery essence, rises upward, and here on earth it eagerly unites with any fire, so that even slightly dry materials ignite easily due to the minimal presence of factors that hinder combustion. Thus, every being that participates in the common rational nature tends, in the same way or even more strongly, toward what shares its nature, for the higher it rises above the rest, the more readily it mixes and merges with its kind. Among irrational beings, there is an immediate tendency toward swarms, herds, broods, and forms of love. Even here, souls exist, and there is already a strong drive toward aggregation, an impulse not found in plants, stones, or wood. Among rational beings, this led to political communities, friendships, families, gatherings, and even treaties and truces in times of war. And among still higher beings, though distant from one another, a kind of union arises, as seen among the stars. Thus, the impulse to rise toward what is higher can create sympathy even between separated beings. Observe then what happens now. Only rational beings have forgotten their inclination and mutual convergence, and only here do we no longer see the flowing together into a single course. Yet, despite their efforts to flee one another, they are caught and surrounded. Nature is stronger. Pay attention, and you will understand what I mean. It would be easier to find something earthly entirely disconnected from other earthly things than to find a man completely cut off from another man. The man, the divine, and the cosmos all bear fruit. In their proper seasons, every single thing produces its fruit. And if common usage restricts the term fruit to vines and other plants, it is of no consequence. Reason bears fruit that is both communal and individual, and from it spring other fruits akin to its nature. 11. If you can, correct them through teaching. If not, remember that kindness has been given to you precisely for such situations. Even the gods are kind to this kind of person. For health, for wealth, for fame, they even help them. So good they are. You can do the same. If not, ask yourself, who is stopping you? 12. Work, but not with the air of a victim, nor to gain pity or admiration. Instead, desire only this, to act and restrain yourself as reason and social duty require. 13. Today I have distanced myself from all irritation. or rather, I have cast it off entirely, for it was not outside me, but within, rooted in my own judgments. 14. All this is familiar to experience, fleeting in time, base in matter. Everything now is just as it was in the days of those we have buried. 15. Things stand outside our door, isolated in themselves, knowing nothing and expressing nothing about themselves. So what is it that speaks about them?
We'll go up here and we'll get honor
principle.
students, and then we can
16.
hop back to Ironforge
The good
very
and
efficiently.
evil of a rational and social being are not found in passivity, but in activity. And
Not in
likewise,
here.
its virtue or vice are not found in passivity, but in
In
activity.
here.
17. For the stone thrown upward, there is no evil in falling back down, just as there is no good in rising. 18. Look into their guiding principles, and you will see what kind of judges you fear, and what kind of judges they are of themselves. 19. Everything is transformation. You yourself are subject to a continuous process of change, and, in a way, destruction. And so is the entire cosmos. 20. Leave another person's error where it lies. 21. The cessation of an activity, of an impulse, a pause, and let's say, the death of an opinion. None of this is evil. Now turn to the various stages of life. Childhood, adolescence, youth, old age. Every transformation in these stages is a kind of death. Is there anything to fear? Now consider the life you lived under your grandfather, then the life under your mother, then the life under your father. And in the face of so many endings, transformations, cessations, ask yourself, is there anything to fear? Thus, the end, the conclusion, the transformation of your entire life is nothing to fear either. 22. Turn to your guiding principle, to that of the universe, and to that of this person. To yours, to make it just and clear. To that of the universe, to remind yourself of what you are a part of. And to that of this person, to understand whether their action stems from ignorance or awareness, and also to recognize that their guiding principle is akin to your own. 23. Just as you are a part of the social whole, so too should every action of yours contribute to the social good. Any action of yours that does not, whether directly or indirectly, serve the common purpose tears at the fabric of communal life, disrupts its intrinsic unity, and becomes a source of discord, just as one who, in a democracy, separates themselves from the spirit of harmony. 24. Anger in childish games, poor souls burdened by corpses. The scene of the Nakia becomes ever clearer. 25. Turn now to the essence of the cause, and observe it in itself, after isolating it from matter. Then determine also the maximum time for which this particular quality can endure. 26. You have already suffered 1,000 times for refusing to let your guiding principle do what is within its nature.
Alright,
Enough
thank
now.
you everyone.
It's time to stop.
I think that's
27.
enough, but thank you for joining us in the great big episode 10. We leveled up several times and we slayed them all. Catch you guys later. Hope you learned something about Stoicism.